In the heart of the dense, ancient woods, 5 friends embarked on a camping trip full of excitement. The air was thick with anticipation as they set up their tents near the tranquil lake. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the forest seemed to come alive with shadows and whispers, and an eerie stillness hung in the air. On the first night, as they sat around the crackling campfire, a distant howl echoed through the trees, sending shivers down their spines. They brushed it off as a coyote, but unease settled in their hearts. The fire's warm glow began to flicker, casting unsettling shapes on the trees around them. The following day, they decided to explore the woods, hoping to shake off the feeling of being watched. As they ventured deeper, the undergrowth grew thicker and the path more twisted. Strange symbols appeared carved into the trees, making them question who or what had left them. Uneasiness turned to fear, but they pressed on. Nightfall brought a new level of dread. Whispers seemed to float on the wind, and their flashlights revealed fleeting glimpses of sinister figures lurking just beyond the tree line. The group huddled in their tents, clutching each other, praying for the dawn. As the third day dawned, tensions escalated. Personal belongings went missing, and a sense of paranoia set in. The once clear lake now appeared murky and foreboding. Footsteps crunched in the underbrush, but each time they turned to look, nothing was there. One of them suggested leaving, but their car had been sabotaged. Stranded and terrified, they realized they were not alone. A chilling wail echoed through the trees, followed by maniacal laughter. Panic surged as they realized they were being hunted by something beyond their comprehension. With no choice but to face their pursuer, they armed themselves with makeshift weapons and embarked on a desperate mission to find answers. Following a trail of disturbing symbols, they stumbled upon a deranged altar deep within a cave. Bones and remnants of previous campers were strewn about, revealing the fate of those who had come before them. The forest seemed to close in around them, as if the trees themselves were alive and malevolent. They encountered grotesque creatures that defied explanation, twisted amalgamations of flesh and bone. A relentless pursuit ensued, testing their limits physically and mentally. In the final, heart-pounding confrontation, they managed to fend off the horrors that had tormented them. With the dawn of a new day, the forest's malevolence lifted, leaving them battered and traumatized, but alive. They stumbled back to civilization, forever scarred by the harrowing events of their camping trip. Years later, none of them can explain what they experienced in those woods. They still wake up in the dead of night, drenched in sweat, haunted by the memories of that terrifying ordeal. And the forest, ever silent, keeps its secrets, waiting for the next unsuspecting souls to wander into its depths. The sun began to set, casting long shadows over the dense forest as a group of friends set up their campsite deep in the wilderness. Eager for a weekend escape, they laughed and chatted, setting up tents and starting a campfire. The crackling flames provided comfort as darkness settled in. As the night wore on, a sense of unease crept over the group. Branches rustled in the wind, and strange noises echoed through the trees. They brushed it off as their imaginations running wild, but tension lingered. A distant hoot of an owl sent shivers down their spines. Gathered around the campfire, they shared ghost stories, laughing nervously at their own fears. But their laughter faded when one friend mentioned a local legend, the tale of the Shadow Woods. The story spoke of a vengeful spirit that haunted the forest, seeking those who dared to camp within its depths. Suddenly, their surroundings seemed to close in. The crackling fire cast eerie shadows on the trees, and each flicker of light seemed to reveal fleeting figures at the edge of their vision. Nervous glances were exchanged, and their joking tone shifted to one of genuine concern. A faint whisper carried on the wind, chilling them to the bone. They strained to hear, hearts pounding, as the whisper seemed to grow louder, forming words that sent a wave of terror through their ranks. "Leave before too late." Panicked, they debated whether to pack up and leave, but fear held them in place. The forest grew eerily silent, the wind dying down, and the whispering ceased. Then, a blood-curdling scream pierced the night, echoing through the trees and freezing them in their tracks. In a rush of fear and adrenaline, they tore down their tents, leaving behind belongings as they fled into the darkness. The woods seemed to close in around them, every rustle of leaves making them jump. The forest, once a place of adventure, had transformed into a nightmare. Branches seemed to reach out, grasping at their clothing, and twisted shadows danced on the forest floor. The sound of footsteps behind them sent them into a full sprint, heartbeats pounding in their ears. The chilling howl of the wind seemed to be accompanied by ghostly wails. They stumbled into a clearing, gasping for breath. The moon broke through the clouds, illuminating the scene before them. In the center of the clearing stood a gnarled tree, its branches twisted into grotesque shapes. And beneath it lay a mound of freshly turned earth. As they stared in horror, a low growl resonated from the shadows. They turned to see two glowing eyes fixated on them, a pair of eyes belonging to a massive, emaciated wolf. Its fur was matted, its ribs visible through its skin. With a guttural snarl, it began to circle them, teeth bared. Desperation gave them the strength to run once more, the creature's growls and barks echoing in their ears. They burst through the trees, stumbling into a clearing where they finally collapsed, panting and terrified. The night seemed to stretch on endlessly, each rustle of leaves sending them into a panic. As dawn broke, their fear began to subside. The forest was no longer a place of danger, but a space of reflection. They realized they had ventured too close to something beyond their understanding, a darkness that thrived in the heart of the woods. They gathered their wits and stumbled back to civilization, leaving behind a campsite that would forever be haunted by the memory of that fateful night in the Shadow Woods. In the heart of the dense, ancient forest stood a clearing, forgotten by time. A group of adventurous friends, determined to create unforgettable memories, decided to camp there. As the sun dipped below the horizon, they set up their tents and kindled a campfire. The crackling fire provided a sense of security, but the rustling leaves and distant hoots of owls sent shivers down their spines. Stories of a vengeful spirit that haunted the woods began to circulate among them, whispered tales of campers who had gone missing over the years. As the night deepened, strange occurrences became more frequent. Shadows danced eerily between the trees, and the wind seemed to whisper eerie secrets. The group tried to dismiss their fears as mere imagination, but their unease grew with each passing moment. In the dead of night, a bone-chilling howl pierced the air, making everyone freeze in terror. Their flashlights revealed nothing but darkness beyond the trees, and an unnatural coldness settled over the campsite. One by one, their lanterns flickered out, plunging them into total darkness. Heartbeats pounded as they huddled together, their fearful breaths echoing in the silence. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream shattered the night. They scrambled to relight the lanterns, their hands trembling. When the light returned, one of their friends was missing. Frantic and terrified, they organized a search party, venturing deeper into the woods. Branches seemed to reach out like gnarled fingers, and the forest's oppressive silence made their steps sound thunderous. Their calls for their missing friend went unanswered, swallowed by the oppressive stillness. Then, they stumbled upon an ancient, decrepit cabin hidden within the trees. It exuded an ominous aura, yet it seemed to hold the answers they desperately sought. With trepidation, they entered, discovering faded journals recounting stories of previous campers who had encountered the same malevolent presence. The entries told of whispers that grew louder, chilling visions in the night, and a sense of being relentlessly pursued. Panic gripped the group as they realized they were facing the same entity. But before they could react, a ghastly figure materialized before them, its eyes burning with otherworldly malice. Desperation pushed them to flee, but the forest seemed to conspire against them. Their path twisted and turned, leading them deeper into its grasp. One by one, they fell victim to the spirit's torment, disappearing into the night. The last survivor, their breath ragged and their spirit broken, stumbled upon an ancient altar. Desperate to end the curse, they followed the instructions from the journal, performing a ritual to appease the vengeful spirit. As the incantation reached its climax, the forest seemed to hold its breath. In an instant, the air grew still, and the malevolent presence dissipated. The survivors' missing friends returned, dazed and confused, but no longer haunted. The woods, once hostile, now felt like a weight lifted. As dawn broke, they emerged from the forest, forever changed by their harrowing experience. They left the clearing, its secrets buried within the ancient trees, a tale to be whispered by future generations of campers.